Hi there, and welcome back to the University of Law podcast. I'm your host, Rik Palmer. Today, I've got a great episode for you with a friend of mine, Joe Twomey, who is a practicing barrister right now. Joe did her law degree, then did a bar course, and then did what's called pupilage, which is 1 year where you're shadowing a barrister and you learn how to actually use all the things that you learn in the course and implement them into how you practice as a barrister. Joe's completed all that and now is practicing at the bar.
I hope you enjoyed it. Some really good insight. Joe is a civil barrister, and civil means that you're not taking on any criminal cases. So you won't be taking people to trial and defending or prosecuting with the CPS so much. You'll be doing more things that are non-criminal offences, but where there might be an issue. So that's things like personal injury, say if you get into a car crash. And so on. It's a really good conversation. Me and Joe have worked together before, which is why it's we maybe laugh a little bit too much. But I hope you enjoy it. And here is Joanne Twomey.
Yeah, so there are a number of different practice areas that barristers can practice in. I've chosen civil, which is I do PI. I also do a lot of employment, but other barristers will do criminal law, family. There's commercial barristers, tax. So there's loads of different practice areas, and some barristers specialise in one or two, and others have quite a broad practice and will practice in a number of different areas.
Cool. And so what do you get up to on a day-to-day basis with the type that you've chosen?
So my practice is split pretty much 50-50 between personal injury and employment. So I'm usually in a tribunal, which is for employment matters. I do preliminary hearings and then final hearings. And in PI, I'm in county courts, where I'm doing road traffic accidents, trips and slips, that kind of stuff.
Cool. So where do you get how confident do you have to be to do this role? Because obviously I don't mind speaking in public, but sometimes I think, well, the odd wrong word isn't going to destroy a case to me. How do you get into that kind of speaking perfectly in front of a courtroom?
It's really a practice makes perfect, fake it till you make it kind of thing. There's no substitute for practice. You can obviously prepare your case as well as you can, but it's a skill. And the more you do it, the better you become at it. And it becomes like a second nature after a while. But particularly in the beginning, it's very much you just have to have a go, make the mistakes, learn from them, and try and get better each time.
I think that's really good advice. So you're a year in. This is your first year of being fully fledged barrister, is that right?
Yeah.
So so far, what has been, would you say, have you got any career highlights so far?
Career highlights. So although probably not me personally, I had really amazing pupilage, and I was actually in the Supreme Court. One of my supervisors was in the Supreme Court in Chitty, and that was amazing. Wow. So yeah, no, I don't know. I wasn't expecting in my first sort of 6 to 8 months to be making an appearance in the Supreme Court. I was actually taking a note, obviously, and I got an urgent email from one of my clerks, and it was like, read this now, and I was like, oh, I read it and opened it. He was like, you're in the back of the Supreme Court TV live, so
wow.
Don't pick your nose and don't be scrolling through Instagram. So I was like, okay, good.
I think that might be the best piece of advice you will have received.
Yeah, it was invaluable.
So for anyone who's wanting to become a barrister, what kind of tips and advice can you give them whilst they're looking at studying and wondering what they can do around the studies?
So having a strong CV is really important, because that's pretty much the basis of all your applications and things that you say in interview. Mm-hmm. So getting a good range of experience. So mini pupilages are always really useful, not only because you can put them on an application, but it gives you an insight into whether you actually would enjoy a career at the bar.
You sound really interesting. What is a mini pupilage?
A mini pupilage it's basically work experience, but it's in chambers. So cool. You can apply to different chambers. They'll all have their own applications, and you basically shadow different barristers around in their kind of day-to-day routine, and you get a really good insight into what the day-to-day of a barrister is like. So you're probably going to court, you'll probably try some paperwork, depending on the chambers, and you'll get to kind of immerse yourself in chambers life so you can see exactly what barristers get up to.
Oh, brilliant. With regards to work experience and so on, at the moment, obviously, people are kind of a little bit stuck and can't get out there to achieve it. But it's a really good opportunity we've been thinking for anyone out there to kind of start building and researching. Is there any advice you would give to someone for what they can do from home right now to start boosting their personal statements and CVs?
Yeah, so I always think that when you think about starting an application, you think actually having the experience and getting the experience is the most important part. But actually, it takes longer than you always think to put together a good application. For example, there might only be 5 or 6 questions, but putting together a really good application so that it reads nicely, so you've got a nice mix of kind of anecdotes, you've got strong things to talk about is really important. So having a first crack at any kind of either personal statement, if it's someone looking to go to uni or if it's someone applying for a mini pupilage, having a go at actually drafting an application will be invaluable now, because when you come to applying later, you'll already have like a first draft. Yeah,
that's good. Do you, it might be like just, you might want your own downtime and to leave work away, but when you chill out, do you like listening to like true crime podcasts and things about the legal profession when you're like, making a murder and all this stuff? Are you into that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I am. I have to say it's my guilty pleasure. I mean, I was absolutely obsessed with Serial, the podcast a couple of years ago, and then I did I've been listening to a few of them. They're like my commute kind of chill out, listen, be interested, So I can't say that I listen to them for any kind of legal, full disclosure. It's not illegal. I don't learn any law from Serial. But they definitely are my guilty pleasure. That's
so true what you said, because everyone listens to them to chill out to, but we are all a generation of people chilling out to stories about murder. But I think that's just the new normal, and we're fine with that.
Yeah, I think it is. I think if I told my parents, oh yeah, I'm just having some downtime whilst watching, how people get away with murder, they'd be like, what?
We're looking for tips. Cool. So, have you got any looking at your true crime or true civil, have you got any good anecdotal stuff or any stories from court that you can share?
An interesting story from court. Oh yeah, so one of I was doing my first full day fast track trial. So that's like a trial it's not small, it's in the middle tier of value of claim, and it was a personal injury one, and it was quite interesting because the defendant was alleging that my client, I was the claimant, was just lying about the injury. It was a road traffic accident, and the defendant's counsel was going, oh, there's no objective evidence, we're going entirely on the account of the claimant, so if the claimant's lying, then, and I turned through my physio notes, which I'd pretty much memorized because it was my first case. And then I point to the judge and I'm ready and I make my submission and I say, actually, there is objective proof. And I say, we can see here when he moved the shoulder, there was a pop. And I said, and then I went on and on about how this was a pop. And the judge just looks at me and grimaces and goes, Miss Twomey, do you think maybe the pop stands for pain on palpation? And I was like, it could do. Yes, I'll move on to my next submission.
Oh, I completely get it. You thought it was like a crack.
Yeah, I thought it was like a pop. I thought he meant the shoulder had like popped, and I was like, it must be injured. It was popping.
Well, I was convinced, so it doesn't matter. And then, kind of, the last thing, just I assume a lot of people listening to this will be at kind of sixth form age, thinking about getting their first degree in a law degree. What was your pathway from sixth form to where you are now?
So I knew that I wanted to be a barrister before I'd even done my GCSEs and A-levels, so I was quite lucky in that respect. I went straight from school to uni. I went to the Uni of Manchester and I studied law, and then after 3 years there, I went straight to the bar. I studied down in London at University of Law, And then I applied for pupilage whilst I was doing the BPTC, and got it at Old Square Chambers.
Brilliant. I mean, I think that you probably went quite speedily through that process. I know a lot of people find that it's not quite as simple. Not that you did it simply, but I think with your advice that it's really about getting all the extracurricular and making sure you're the perfect candidate, because so many people want to become barristers and there's so many limited spaces for pupilages. What helped you stand out from the crowd?
Well, I think, like I said, when I said luckily I knew what I wanted to do, the fact that I knew early that I wanted to go to the bar meant that I had kind of a few years head start on other people who hadn't decided until maybe, third year of uni, when they're starting to consider if they want to be a solicitor or a lawyer or a solicitor or a barrister or whatever. So I'd started doing, mini pupilages, mooting competitions, advocacy, all that kind of stuff. I'd started doing it sixth form and through uni. So I think that my CV was relatively strong in terms of bar-specific extracurriculars, because I was always tailoring my CV towards that goal.
Yeah. For people out there that maybe have not started to research as deep, this is probably maybe a good question, but I know that from all the law students or former law students that I've spoken to, the one case that stands out is not appropriate. But are there any cases that you can remember when you were studying that really stood out that might be something that our future students might want to look into?
So I always remember the case when I think back to my studies. It was Donahue and Stevenson.
Yeah.
That was kind of, the one that everybody remembers. That, even now you talk to people who have left uni years and years ago, and everyone remembers Donahue and Stevenson. I wouldn't say you necessarily have to. Obviously, when you start your law degree, you'll look at that. But it's quite an interesting case, and it's one that you will, be ingrained in your memory forever and ever and ever. Amen. After you study it. Yeah,
no, I think everyone's in love with that snail, but it might be good. Yeah, I think it's a really good jumping off point, especially for anyone wanting to go into civil.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that's been really great. Thank you very much for speaking to us, and
you're very welcome.
Good luck at your next time in court.
Thank you very much. Who knows when that will be?
Useful. Joanne's so brilliant, so I hope you really enjoyed listening to her there. She's got some great insight. She's been really successful in her route. She's really flown through it. So any insight you can get from her is really valuable. And I think what she said there, which is a really good point for us to remake, is that it's all about showing that you've had that passion for a while. So do try and get as much work experience and as much experience outside of, it doesn't have to be just work experience and shadowing. Sometimes it might be that when we can go back to courts, you can go and sit in the court, maybe sit in a magistrate's court and just observe some of the proceedings. Try and get in touch with some barristers if you can, and maybe speak to them. Go along to any event where there might be some barristers there. And then when you actually end up talking to future barristers, you can explain how much you've really tried to engage with the profession already. And then when you are doing a law degree, you can start looking at these things called mini pupilages, which are just exceptional ways of getting experience where you'll really go along and do a short run working as a pretend pupil barrister. So you'll really get some hands-on experience. And when it comes to those interviews, where they are quite difficult to get through, you've got a lot to talk about, which you might find that the other candidates don't have. But hopefully all that's been useful. Go and try and get some research done now. Maybe look at some case files and see if there's any that really interest you. Work out what interested you. So Joe mentioned Donahue then, and that was a civil case, but you can also look at some criminal cases and see which one's more interesting. That might help you with some direction. And keep in touch with us. So go on our website, which is law.ac.uk. Tons of online events happening at the moment and loads of content for you to be getting some more interest in, some more advice on law there. And subscribe to this because we're going to keep posting, and hopefully all our future recordings will be helpful to you as well. All right, thanks a lot.